everyone, it's True Detective here. A book review, Creativity Inc. by Ed Catmull, the co-founder of PIXAR Animation. Here on the cover you see Buzz Lightyear. I remember having a toy of Buzz Lightyear back in them days. I got it from some flea market. It was pretty small and it made a noise when you pressed on it, and it said, I think in Finnish even, that the forever and beyond, whatever the character says in the movie. And yeah, Toy Story, it was kind of a foundational movie in my childhood. I liked it. It was a very interesting movie, and in those times pretty amazing what they achieved at PIXAR Animations. But this book is about more than that. It's about more than just him telling about how great PIXAR was. He is also telling about where PIXAR wasn't so great. And he lays out how this whole animation studio came about, and the connections to Disney and the merger with Disney, and also the acquisition by Apple, was it? However it went, however the money flowed. In this book he talks about being a manager at PIXAR and how artists, how you make artists work together isn't so cookie cutter streamlined as you would think. In this he explains how in PIXAR the artists didn't like that there has to be a manager, that there has to be management. Artists wanted to just go to each other, even in different departments, and talk. There wasn't that open flow of communication at PIXAR. And I've kind of realized through my own experience that artists really cannot work together without a middleman. There has to be management, there has to be a manager. In every major production, there's the management side, there's the managers. Why? Well, in this book he explains that, because that's what his occupation, so to say, was at PIXAR. He talks about the grind, the hard work that they did, the long hours, and the stuff that you don't see when you go to watch a full movie. He made it very clear that producing a movie is a very messy type of a process. There's a lot of stuff that goes wrong. And one of the funny things about in this book, he also talks about Linux, because they use Linux at PIXAR. But he talks about a system failure that happened at PIXAR, where they almost lost all the files of Toy Story 2. I wouldn't say that that failure was because Linux is bad for that kind of production environment. It was just because they had set up it so that they weren't really maybe knowing fully what they were doing there. But Linux and PIXAR are related. Even though Steve Jobs and Apple funneled the money to PIXAR, they still, I think, up to this day are using a lot of Linux. What he's talking about there is the file system, the servers that had all the files for the animation. He doesn't go too in deep to how animation, 3D animation is done, because that's really wasn't his job at PIXAR. He talks about creative talent and talent seeking. He talks about how there can be a genius, but in an environment like this he might not shine. And he kind of leaves it at that. I would have kind of seeked a little bit more guidance from the man. In this type of sense, he's not very much a self-help writer. He kind of leaves it at that. Well, you might be a genius, but in this environment, that might not be much of a plus. Yeah. I don't know. Oh, here there's also a wide description about the PIXAR parameters. And still yet, though, he doesn't describe it very deep over here. And there's not a lot of pictures. Yeah. I feel that it was still a great read. And you can listen to this in audiobook form on YouTube. I think for free. At least I saw it there. I don't know if it's one of those read by a robot type of books. But still, it's there for free. So, go ahead and check it out. Creativity Inc. by Ed Catmull, the co-founder of PIXAR Animation. Thanks for watching this book review.